Calm people are not people with fewer emotions. They simply do not let other people hold the remote control. A meeting is going on like normal. You have just finished presenting your opinion. Someone sitting across from you smiles slightly, then says, "This idea is a little naive, is it not?" The whole room goes silent. You hear your heart beating faster. Your face gets hot. There is only one urge left in your mind. You have to respond right away. You have to prove you are not stupid. You have to let them know you are not easy to disrespect. But the hotter you get, the easier it is to walk into the trap. Because some people do not need to win with the truth. They only need to make you react strongly enough to turn you into the problem. If one sentence has ever ruined your whole day, comment the number 3. Just one number, to remind yourself that from today on, you will pause before reacting. You are not weak because you once got angry. You are not childish because you once wanted to argue back. You simply were never taught how to stay calm when someone touches the exact place that hurts. In this video, you will learn 3 things. Recognize the bait. Stop your reaction in the first 3 seconds. And use short sentences to set boundaries without losing your temper. Not to tolerate everything. Not to pretend you are noble. But so no one can drag you into a fight just because they need the feeling of winning. Remember this first. Not every argument is meant to find the truth. Some arguments are created only to take your energy. Usually, people who use words to test your weak spots do not begin with a big attack. They begin with a small sentence, a joke with a hidden sting, a slight smirk, a question that sounds casual but lands exactly where you are easiest to hurt. At a family dinner, you have just said you are trying to change jobs. Someone smiles slightly and says, "Dreaming again, huh?" It sounds like a joke, but you know it is not just a joke. It touches your fear, the fear of being looked down on, the fear of being seen as a failure, the fear that everyone thinks you do not know what you are doing. And when that painful spot is touched, your body wants to react immediately. You want to speak very fast. You want to explain very clearly. You want to prove that they are wrong. But that is exactly when the trap opens. They throw a small spark, then wait for you to burn the whole room down yourself. When you heat up, the story starts to change direction. They can say, "See, I was only joking, and you overreacted." Or, "You are always so tense like this." Then you are no longer talking about boundaries. You have to defend your emotions. That is how you get pulled away from your center. Not because you are weak, but because reacting too quickly makes you lose the power to choose. Every time you react according to the exact script they expected, you are teaching them how to control you next time. So the first goal is not to win. The first goal is to not get pulled into reaction. Step 1. Take back the first 3 seconds. Before you say anything, you need to take back 3 seconds. Those 3 seconds are a small door, but they decide whether you react in panic or respond with awareness. The first 3 seconds decide almost the entire game. Not because 3 seconds make your anger disappear, but because they help you not be driven by that anger. When someone says something that hits you, your body reacts before your reason does. Your shoulders tighten, your jaw locks, your breathing gets shorter. That is a signal, not a signal to attack, but a signal to pause. In those 3 seconds, you do not need to think of a clever answer. You only need to do something simpler. Lower your shoulders. Slow your breathing down. Look straight at the issue. You are not trying to swallow your anger. You are taking back your power to choose. Because people who are easily provoked usually lose right at this point. They answer before they understand. They fight back before they observe. They turn one sarcastic sentence into an entire battle. Calm people do something different. They allow a gap to appear. That gap makes the other person face what they just said. After 3 seconds, do not rush to explain. Ask one short question. What do you mean by that? This question is not loud, but it is very hard to dodge. If they truly just spoke clumsily, they have a chance to correct themselves. If they are being sarcastic, they have to bring the sarcasm into the light. Many attacks are only strong while they stay vague. When you ask clearly, they lose part of their power. For example, in a meeting, someone says, "This idea is a little naive." Do not rush to answer, "No, I already researched it." That sentence pulls you into a defensive position. Speak more slowly. Can you explain which part is naive? Now, they have to choose. Either they give real feedback, or they reveal that they were only mocking you. Both cases benefit you, because you are no longer chasing your emotions. You are pulling the conversation back to clarity. That is the strength of a calm person, not silence to endure. but pausing to see clearly, not asking for permission, but asking so the other person takes responsibility for their words. When you train these 3 seconds, many arguments will die before they begin. Step 2. Speak briefly to hold your boundary. After you pause and ask clearly, the next step is to speak briefly. Very briefly, because when you are being provoked, the longer you speak, the easier it is to lose direction. You start with a boundary. But just a few sentences later, you are explaining your childhood, your personality, your intentions, and your kindness. That is the second trap. Talking too much makes you think you are in control. But in reality, you are giving them more material. The person trying to bend the conversation only needs one sentence from it. They will ignore the main issue. They cling to your tone. They cling to one word you did not use perfectly. They cling to your emotions. So, when you see the conversation starting to drift, return to short sentences. I do not talk that way. I am willing to listen, but I do not accept sarcasm. When you speak normally, I will continue. These sentences do not need more explanation. Because the clearer a boundary is, the less decoration it needs. You do not need to convince them that your boundary is reasonable. You only need to show what will continue and what will stop. This is where many people get it wrong. They set a boundary, then stay there asking the other person to agree. They say, I do not like that way, do you understand? Then, when the other person does not understand, they explain more. But a boundary is not a request for permission. A boundary is an announcement about how you will act. If the conversation is still healthy, you stay. If they keep being sarcastic after you have made it clear, that is when you do not need to explain more. You need to leave the conversation. Step 3. Leave the conversation when it is no longer healthy. Leaving does not mean losing. Leaving means refusing to turn yourself into fuel. You can say, we will continue when we are calmer. Then stop. Do not add a lecture. Do not come back because they throw one more sentence. Do not try to win the final line. Because sometimes the final line is the hook. They only need you to come back. They only need you to heat up. They only need you to prove yourself one more time. A calm person is not someone who always has a clever comeback. They are someone who knows when to stop. They know when a conversation is no longer about understanding each other, and only about seeing who can be dragged lower. Calm does not mean you are not hurt. Calm means you do not let pain drive your mouth. When someone tries to touch your weak spot, remember 3 action phrases. Pause for 3 seconds. Ask for clarity. Speak briefly, then leave if needed. That is all. You do not need a speech to prove you are right. You do not need to win with a louder voice. You do not need to shame them to take back your value. Because your value is not in their reaction. It is in how you hold yourself when you are tested. Some people will understand when you speak clearly. Some people will get uncomfortable when you are no longer easy to pull into reaction. And some people will keep throwing one more sentence, just to see if you can be pulled back in. Do not come back just because of the final hook. Do not betray your calm just to win one sentence. Over the next 7 days, practice one small thing. When you are mocked, do not answer immediately. Breathe in. Count 3 seconds. Then choose one of these 3 sentences. 1. What do you mean? 2. I do not talk that way. 3. We stop here. Which of these 3 sentences do you need to practice the most? Comment number 1, 2, or 3. If you want to learn how to respond to sarcastic people without getting pulled into arguments, subscribe to the channel. The next video will show you 3 short replies that make sarcasm lose its power. You do not need to beat them. You only need to not let them pull you away from your calm and your value.